Good morning, everyone joining us today for the preparatory webinar, which is part of the EU Singapore Matchmaking Event that will take place end of October in Singapore. And a very warm welcome to all that, and good afternoon to all that are joining us from Singapore. Before going through the agenda, I will quickly brief you about the housekeeping rules. So this webinar is scheduled to last 1 hour and 30 minutes. It will be recorded and afterwards published on the European Cluster Collaboration platform. As well, we will publish all the materials that will be used during the presentations today. All participants are in listening mode, so if you want to ask questions while during the presentations or afterwards, please use the chat box or the Q&A box. I will briefly inform you about the agenda. So at the beginning, we will start with opening remarks. After that, we have planned a market access information session where you will hear about collaboration opportunities and guidelines on how to do business with Singaporean counterparts, and as well as we will have a presentation of the input paper. After that, there will be a presentation of Southeast Asia IPSME Help Desk, and a presentation of Switch event, which the overall matchmaking event is part of, as well as a presentation of the Agri-Food Tech Expo. So we will hear about practical information, general overview, and insights. At the end, we will finish with the Q&A and closing, and I will brief you about the next steps towards the technical webinar, as well as the actual matchmaking event. So without further delay, we will go to the opening session. And I would like to welcome on the floor Christophe Guichard, Policy Officer, Unit on Industrial Forum, Alliances and Clusters, DG Grow for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs from the European Commission. Christophe, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Theodora, and good morning to everyone. I'm really pleased to address this webinar this morning with short opening remarks on behalf of DG Grow, the European Commission. Our event this morning will give you some background information to help you to prepare for our upcoming matchmaking event in Singapore. And this event will be held for the second edition on site and the third time as we had a first event organized online. So I'm really pleased to welcome all of you from across Europe to participate to this second edition of our matchmaking event. And we have today a very large delegation from Europe. We have received over 130 applications to attend this event and half from cluster organization. So given the large interest received to attend this event, we have found an opportunity to enlarge our delegation exceptionally, which includes now in total 30 clusters and 9 SMEs from 19 European different countries. The list of participants will actually be sent to you after this webinar to give you an overview of our delegation. In addition, there will be 7 additional European clusters from the Global Future Project, an EU-funded cluster partnership that will be associated to some of our sessions and that organize in parallel a business mission for around 20 SMEs from the partnership. This session this morning will give you some guidance on how to access the market, do business, and collaborate with Singapore. It will also give you some general overview on how to deal with RPI issues in Southeast Asian markets, and you will receive practical information on your participation in Switch and Agri-Food Tech Expo, the 2 trade fairs that will host us to take full advantage of all collaboration opportunities at this event. I would like to thank all our counterparts for working together to make this matchmaking event a success. This includes our main partners, Enterprise Singapore and the Singapore Business Federation, the EU Delegation to Singapore, the Southeast Asia IPR SME Help Desk, the EU Chamber of Commerce in Singapore, the Global Future Cluster Partnership, the Switch and Agri-Food Tech Expo organization team, the Enterprise Europe Network, and the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. So as you can see, this is really a great team effort. The main objective for this event is to help European and Singaporean clusters and companies to create new trade and investment links and business partnerships. And I would like to emphasize that further reinforcing EU-Singapore trade and investment relations is a priority for the Commission. Our free trade agreement that we signed in 2019 contributed to reduce barriers and ensure increased market access for our businesses. We need to make sure now that our companies can benefit successfully from the opportunities the free trade agreement has created. And this matchmaking event exactly intends to deliver on this objective. It will contribute actually to implement also the administrative arrangement that was signed in 2020 to foster cluster and business cooperation. Now, to come back on our event this morning, I trust that this preparatory webinar will be the beginning of fruitful business contacts and cooperation. We have prepared a very dense program with matchmaking sessions, informal business dinner, customized guided tour at the trade shows, and various site visits. And I would like to have a last remark. This is about the follow-up to the business opportunities you will identify during the three-day event. The ECCP will send you a feedback survey immediately after the event, and I would like to stress the importance for us that you complete the survey carefully with details and concrete, but not confidential information on the different cooperation cases identified. We put in place a full agenda of networking opportunities over 3 days, and we would really appreciate if you could share detailed feedback to be able not only to assess the success of this mission and the cooperation potential with our partners, but also to justify future missions. So I strongly encourage you to take all these opportunities to network and matchmake with our Singaporean partners during this mission. With these last words, I wish you successful meetings in Singapore, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Christoph, for this overview. And I join you for thanking to all the partners that are making happening, not only the webinar, but the event at the end of October. It's been already a hard work. And with this webinar, the journey, I think, to Singapore has already started. So thank you again. And I would like now to give the floor to Joyce Kua, Deputy Director, Europe Enterprise Singapore. Joyce, the floor is yours.
Yep. Thanks, Tudor, and thanks, Christoph. Hello, everyone. My name is Joyce, and I'm from Enterprise Singapore. So it is my pleasure to finally meet everyone after so many weeks of planning this event. And I just want to begin by saying, on behalf of Enterprise Singapore, we're looking forward to receiving you in Singapore very soon. I know that some of you actually participated last year and are coming again this year, so we are really happy to have you back in Singapore. So a quick introduction of Enterprise Singapore. We are the government agency under the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and our key mandate is to help Singapore companies to grow through productivity, innovation, and of course, through internationalization, which is why this matchmaking platform is a really good one for us to connect to our European partners. So we're very happy to work with the European Commission to support this upcoming mission to Singapore. This year, I think we have a good mix of representatives from 6 sectors. There's advanced manufacturing, there's agri-food, there is digital tech, there's green tech, healthcare and biomed, smart cities, and urban solutions. So on the Singapore side, we are now working closely with the Singapore Business Federation, or SBF, which is our apex business chamber in Singapore, to identify the right trade associations, centers of innovation, and Singapore companies to meet with you. And later on, I think Ian from SBF will also do a sharing. So we really hope to facilitate useful and meaningful connections between yourselves and Singapore partners at this matchmaking event on the 30th of October. And of course, Singapore itself is a small market. We have 5.64 million people over a land area of over 700 kilometers square. But we are part of a region that is projected to grow at 5% this year, surpassing the forecast for many other economies. And by 2030, we're expected to be the 4th largest economy as a bloc, behind the US, China, and of course the EU. In terms of geography and infrastructure, when you're here, you will see that we are quite well connected. The rest of Southeast Asia is a 2-3 hour flight away. So we're well connected in terms of trade, investments, and logistics. And I think Singapore is committed to ensuring a pro-business, pro-innovation environment to support your needs. So plenty of opportunities in this part of the world that Singapore is in. And at the same time, I think our companies are very excited about the opportunities in Europe itself, a tremendous market with incredible diversity. So we hope that through the matchmaking activity, we can open doors for our companies to explore partnership opportunities with the clusters present at this event. So as you know, the event will take place in conjunction with the Singapore Week of Innovation and Technology, what we call SWITCH, as well as the Singapore International Agri-Food Week, which you'll hear more about later. So we hope you'll find this mission and visit to the events insightful and useful. So thank you again to Christoph, Theodora, and the team for the strong collaboration on this. And I really want to echo what Christoph mentioned earlier. We welcome your feedback so that we can continue to make sure that such matchmaking events are useful and productive for your needs as well. So thank you again, and really looking forward to seeing everyone in Singapore soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Theodora.
Thank you very much, Joyce. And we also thank you for the close collaboration and the hard work. It's on the entire team. And from the number of applications that Christoph mentioned, we already see a huge interest for the organizations to collaborate with Singapore. So we all hope that this would be a very fruitful matchmaking event and mission overall. So thank you. And now we are going to the second part, the second session, which is the market access information. As was already said, today's webinar, it's already to open the door for your travel and the matchmaking event. So I would like to welcome on the floor Leonard Galdiga, expert data and policy from the European Cluster Collaboration Platform team, to present the input paper.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Theodora. Let me briefly share my presentation for you. I hope you can already see it. That sounds good. Yes. So in the following, I'm going to present to you some insights from our input paper a bit on clusters and important value chains with Singapore. Thereby, I'm going to touch briefly upon the economic profile of Singapore, outline trade flows between Singapore and the EU, and also indicate some relevant industry and cluster programs in Singapore. So starting off with the economic profile, generally one can say that Singapore is characterized as a trade-driven economy and also offers a broad diversity in its sectors, which you're also going to look in more detail over the next slides. Just briefly, Singapore has enjoyed some strong GDP growth over the last 20 years, with a GDP growth in 2020 with around 3.2%. Looking at the sectors, one can highlight that the service sector plays a key role for the Singaporean economy, contributing roughly 71% to its GDP. And for the service sector, one can highlight subsectors such as trade, business services, but especially also the financial services, which make up a large proportion of it. Then there's also the industrial sector, which contributes roughly 25% to the Singaporean GDP. Here one can highlight sectors such as the biomedical sciences, but also electronics and petrochemicals, as we'll also see later on. Also, the agricultural sector is quite important for Singapore, as there are significant investments, especially in high-tech farming, are being implemented, since also the Singaporean government aims at increasing its food security and by 2030 wants to produce 30% of its national nutritional needs in Singapore. And with this, Singapore is leading its way in the food tech industry in Southeast Asia. Regarding the regional aspect, we already heard some bits of that. So in the introduction, so Singapore really provides a vantage point for trade in the Southeast Asian region. And here one can also mention the port of Singapore, which is one of the most important trading hubs in the world. Looking at existing trade linkages between the EU and Singapore, despite the fact, as we heard in the introduction, that Singapore might be a smaller country by population, it's already quite a significant trading partner for many EU countries. And also, as we heard in the beginning, this can also be linked to the EU Free Trade Agreement from 2019, which helped the market access for EU and Singapore businesses, as well as facilitate trade and investments between the two regions and countries. So here, looking a bit more on the general characteristics of existing trade linkages, drawing from data of the UN Comtrade database, we see the imports and exports between both countries and regions. And here one can highlight that, not too surprisingly, looking at the imports from Singapore to the EU 27, that Germany, with imports of around $5.6 billion in 2020, was accounting for a large share. However, one can also highlight the Netherlands, Belgium, and France, which, for instance, on the import side, are accounting for almost 50% of all imports to the EU 27 from Singapore. So looking a bit more thematically on the trade linkages, on the overarching level, one can state that traded goods, or the majority of trade goods between the EU and Singapore, can be related to machinery and transport equipment, but also chemicals. Looking here on a more granular level, so on the level of commodities, we see here the top 5 trade commodities between the EU and Singapore. What we see on the import side, we see really the relevance of the health sector, as medicaments with import value in 2020 of around 2.6 billion of imports to the EU really account for a large share. But there are also other commodities on here, such as the oxygen function amino compounds, which are usually used in the production of hormones, neurotransmitters, as well as enzymes. What we also see on here are, both for the imports and the exports, are the electronic integrated circuits, which are essentially used in almost all electrical equipment, such as computers or also optical products. Looking a bit more on the exports from the EU 27 to Singapore, can also see the relevance of the aerospace industry, as airplanes and other aircrafts accounted for 1.3 billion of exports in 2020. There are also other commodities on here, such as beauty makeup preparations for skincare, which out of these 1.2 billion are 1.1 are being exported from France, which indicates the importance of the Singaporean market for the French cosmetic industry. So looking at selected industry and cluster programs in Singapore, we also heard in the beginning that there is also an agreement on cluster cooperation between Singapore and the EU, which of course wants to further increase the cooperation of industry clusters between Singapore and the EU. Next to that, one can mention the program Research, Innovation, Enterprises 2025 of Singapore, which draws on quite a significant budget, namely roughly 1% of Singapore's GDP between 2021 and 2025, which amounts to roughly 16 billion euros. And what can one highlight here is that this program is geared towards similar priorities as many EU strategies, so namely the green economy, digitalization, and also social inclusion. Overall, this program is also centered around 4 pillars, in which there are blueprints and key strategies outlined for the further industries. Just to name one domain here, it's the manufacturing, trade, and connectivity, which is aimed at research and development in advanced manufacturing sector as well as connectivity. Also important to highlight here that this program is also focusing on internationalization of projects, as it wants to promote and facilitate open innovation partnerships between international innovation ecosystems. Last but not least, there's also the Singapore Green Plan 2030, which focuses has a focus on green manufacturing and sustainable supply chains, and which is also relevant for achieving the long-term net zero emissions objectives of the Singaporean government by mid-century. In this regard, one can highlight that the Singaporean government is issuing green bonds on public infrastructure projects, which include, for instance, an integrated water and solid waste treatment facility, but also in this context, the so-called Agri-Food Cluster Transformation Fund, which has a budget of around 60 million Singaporean and focuses on technology adoptions in the food industry. And as we heard in the beginning, the food industry is of quite significance for Singapore. So in a nutshell, one can say that Singapore provides a highly diversified and far developed economy with a variety of sectors, and that not at least thanks to the existing free trade agreement, Singapore is already a significant trading partner for many EU countries. Next to that, there's also a number of relevant cluster and industry support programs, which help to attract both foreign and domestic actors. And based on that, there are further prospects for intensifying existing linkages between the EU and Singapore. And with that, I thank you very much for listening, and I'd like to give it back to Theodora.
Thank you very much, Leonard, for this overview. As said earlier, all the presentations will be uploaded on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, but as well as on the page, you will also be able to find the full version of the input paper, because this was just a brief presentation of some of the parts of the input paper, but you will be able to have an access to the full version. So thank you, Leonard, for this overview, and I will give the floor now to Ian Lee, who is Country Head Europe, Singapore Business Federation.
Hi, thanks, Theodora. Can you hear me all?
Yes,
yeah?
We hear you, we see you.
Okay, you can see my slides?
Yes, please just go on full
Great.
screen.
Okay, so following from Leonard, he has provided quite a lot of data about Singapore. And for all of you all coming to Singapore end of next month, I'd like to share a little bit more from the business angle. Okay, my name is Ian. I'm from the Singapore Business Federation. We are the Apex Chamber of Commerce, and we help basically companies to network and to collaborate and to as advocacy for the Singapore government too. Okay, so the agenda I'll talk about today is about Singapore. You have heard quite a bit from Joyce, you have heard about Leonard, and about Singapore Business Federation, as well as how you can actually collaborate with Singapore's businesses, as well as some business culture. Okay, so it's very quick. Yeah. So Singapore, you have heard, okay, population 5.64, GDP is about 400 over billion. Our trade to GDP is about 3.5 times, close to 3.5 times. Why? Because Singapore is a trading hub, and we do more transshipment trading than and that's why it's about $1 trillion more than our GDP. Okay, the airport is very well connected. The port is well connected. So and ease of doing business. We just lose to New Zealand, so never mind. We are going there, right? Okay, so about Singapore Business Federation. Okay, we are the Apex Chamber. We help the Singapore companies in their internationalization efforts. We also help them in their digitalization and transformation. We are moving them from the 2G, 3G to the 4Gs. Okay, the Industry 4.0s for the manufacturing. Yeah, and also as the business and industry transforms, the jobs and the skills need to be redesigned. So this is what we help the Singapore companies in doing all this. Okay, of course, at the bottom, this is all our advocacy work, our membership work, as well as partnership. Yeah, okay. So basically, I think for sectors that you see potential for collaboration, Leonard has mentioned quite a bit. But among our members, we see that most of them are very keen, especially for Europe. Okay, the green economy. Yeah, you must understand Singapore has zero oil. Okay, crude oil zero, but we have a whole ecosystem that supports the whole oil and gas sector. Yeah, and this whole ecosystem needs to move, and this whole ecosystem needs to learn about the green energy, the green sustainability and all that. And they are learning. Okay, and they are learning from where? Europe. Okay, just last year we just brought a delegation up to Rotterdam to learn about green energy and sustainable energy. FMCG. Okay, this is a forever in demand. Okay. Singapore is a trading hub for all food products and fast-moving products. Okay, not only to Singapore, our population is very small, but for the region as well. ASEAN region is about 600 over million consumers. Yeah. Of course, food and agri-tech. You hear more as we talk about the Singapore International Agri-Tech Week coming up when you're here. Yeah. and digital tech as well. Okay, of course, Switch. Yeah. Okay, so and fintech is coming in November as well. Okay, so these are all the sectors that the Singapore companies are always looking to collaborate, to partner with European companies, okay, and clusters as well. Okay. Okay, so last slide, basically, I thought if for some of you all that have not been to Singapore, you have not done any business with Singapore, some advice, okay, bring as many name cards as you can, okay, more than 100 at least, okay. Singapore business culture is, we'll shake hands, we like to exchange name cards, okay. There's some feedback that the Singapore businessmen receive is that if you don't come with a name card, they view you that you are not serious in doing business. You're not serious in having a follow-up discussion, because they need your contacts, they need your emails, and yes, you can always have a screen digital format of your name card where you have a QR code, which I think is very helpful as well. Okay, so please consider this protocol before you start any discussion about handshakes, about exchanging name cards, or digital scans of your name cards. Yeah. No need to bring brochures or samples. If you want, you can, but Singapore companies, some of them will accept your brochures, but else no need, okay? And also please articulate your needs, okay? Because the Singapore company will tell you what they're looking for, okay? So you got to tell them what you are looking for, okay? And then we see there's a match. And this is where, for this year, we are going for targeted. We are working with Enterprise Singapore, also with Theodora's team, to target, to invite the Singapore clusters as well as Singapore SMEs that will match your needs that you have highlighted in digital tech, in photonics and all. Like even this morning, I just finished a seminar. We had 17 companies from Poland, from the Krakow region. They're here and brought out Singapore companies, and because we had the requirements before that, we were able to do a lot of good matching. Okay, and it was also in advanced manufacturing, and there's a lot of demand for advanced manufacturing. Okay, so as you come to Singapore, as you represent your cluster to come to Singapore, don't see Singapore as the market, okay, but see Singapore as the springboard to the Southeast Asia region, to the 600 over million consumers. Okay, there's a lot of reason that you must understand why you need to use Singapore. You can go to Vietnam direct, you can go to Thailand, Philippines direct. You'll face a lot of problems with financial controls, okay, and so you need to structure your business, structure your deals, use Singapore, because Singapore is a free country, okay, free movement of finances. In the whole ASEAN, there's only 2 countries there's a free movement of money, okay, Singapore and Brunei. But of course, Brunei is a small country, so other countries you find there's a lot of problems. I find from Singapore, from European companies, they have problems with their financial flows, movement, okay. So use Singapore as a springboard to Southeast Asia region. Okay. Okay. The other thing is that Singapore companies, they are very competitive. There's a lot of competitors within Singapore companies, SMEs themselves. So they always are looking for new technologies to license, to in-license, to partner distributors, because they want to be better than their competitors in Singapore and in the region. So where they're going to find for technologies and how to differentiate themselves, they are always looking towards Europe. So you are the people that if you have technologies, please shout it out loud. Singapore companies are always looking for technologies. Our clusters also are always looking for technologies for their members, for their cluster members. Okay, so I thought maybe this is some sharing that you all could take note of, prepare before you come to Singapore. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you, Theodora.
Thank you very much, Ian, for the overview, but also for the very practical advices. And I really take a note of what you said, and I would like to highlight it here, to define the needs. So the preparation for the conversations and the meetings in Singapore needs to start with defining the needs and the offer. So thank you for these advices. We will continue this session with Justina Lasik, Head of Economic and Trade Section from the EU Delegation to Singapore. Justina, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon from Singapore, and good morning to those who are joining us from Europe. Let me just share my presentation. I hope it will work this time. I think it's fine. Yes, okay. Thank you so much. So I'm actually based in Singapore, although I work for the EU. I'm here since 2020. And today I will give you a short overview of EU-Singapore economic and trade relations. Some of the elements that I will mention in my presentation were already mentioned before, so we'll try not to duplicate, but I thought it would be useful for you to have a bit of overview also where we stand in terms of our engagement with Singapore on institutional basis. So let me just start with my first slide. So I'm trying to move to the next one. So actually, Singapore is our key partner when it comes to trade and economic trade and economic relations in Southeast Asia. And when one looks at trading goods, services, and investment combined, it is actually the first partner among the ASEAN region. And basically, we have very strong bilateral ties with Singapore. We have several agreements which were signed or negotiated, some of them already in place, and I will talk about it a bit later. Additionally, more than 10,000 European companies established in Singapore, and many of them are established here, but they do business regionally or even for the full APEC region. And basically, many of them use Singapore as a springboard. So they open operations here, and later on, they basically decide to extend their operations in either in the ASEAN community or in other countries to the east. As it was mentioned already earlier, Singapore is the largest transport and financial hub in the region, and the port is one of the largest, and actually a new port is being opened, which will be the largest in the world once it's fully operational, so Tuas Port. When it comes to bilateral trade, let me introduce some figures. I think you have seen some at the more sectoral level, but let me just give you a bigger picture. So actually, when it comes to trading goods, EU trade relations with Singapore are rising from year to year, and EU has a slight trade surplus when it comes to trading goods. As you can see on the slide, we export to Singapore around 31.7 billion worth of goods, and we import slightly over 20 billion. When it comes to services, and this was already mentioned before, it is very big part of the Singaporean economy. And in fact, when it comes to trade in services, Singapore has a surplus in trade with EU. And when it comes to foreign direct investment, despite the small size of Singapore, it has very significant role for EU FDI stocks, and the other way around too, although Singaporean investments in EU are a bit smaller and rising. And what might be interesting for you to note is that, in fact, EU investment stock in Singapore is larger than EU investment stock in China, which you might not think of given the very small size of Singapore. But it only proves that many European companies see Singapore as a great place to do business and a place where it's easy to do business. Let me now talk a bit about EU-Singapore Free Trade Agreement. It was mentioned in several of presentations that you have heard before. So the FTA we have now in place since 2019 was in fact launched already in 2009, and the negotiations were concluded on big part of it in 2012. Unfortunately, due to some internal discussions and basic court case about competences between EU and member states, the FTA could enter into force only in 2019. But since then, the implementation is going very smoothly. And basically, we do not have many trade barriers. In fact, Singapore has zero tariffs almost on all goods. So even before the FTA entered into force, goods could flow freely with Singapore. And as well, Singapore doesn't impose excessive regulatory requirements for exports. So if you are into exports of goods, it's relatively simple. At the same time, of course, if many goods are shipped to Singapore and then transshipped to other countries in the region, so this is something to take into account, that not all goods that are destined as first part to Singapore will stay here. So if you see, the conditions of the destination country have to be respected. And in the ASEAN region, we have only two free trade agreements that are in place. One is with Singapore, and the other one, which entered into force in 2020, is with Vietnam. Besides FTA, we have also investment protection agreement that has been negotiated. However, this agreement is not yet in place. It's being still ratified by new member states by the parliaments. And let me just focus on a couple of areas that are covered in the free trade agreement. So the main component FTA focuses around market access issues, goods, services, government procurement. As I mentioned, for goods, Singapore is very open, and actually only a very limited number of tariff lines apply for exports from EU to Singapore, and they were eliminated thanks to the FTA. For services, Singapore is service hub, especially financial services and professional services constitute quite a big part of the economy, and there are many European players who are actually active in this field. And when it comes to the government procurement, there are also plenty of opportunities. And now we are looking increasingly at green procurement and how European businesses could be more active in that field in Singapore. FTA consists also of some regulatory aspects. So basically rules applicable to customs and trade facilitation, rules of origin, which is quite relevant because goods have to be originating in either of the party to be able to use benefits, which in this particular case applies rather to exports from Singapore to EU, where we still had tariffs because before the FTA. When you export goods from EU to Singapore, as I mentioned, majority of goods were duty-free already before the FTA, so there is less need to pay attention to rules of origin unless you export goods on which tariffs were eliminated thanks to the FTA. We have also provisions in the FTA on technical barriers to trade and sanitary and phytosanitary measures. And we have also some regulatory aspects covered, so also intellectual property rights, rules linked to digital trade, but these are being updated and I will talk about it a bit later. And we have also a chapter link that is focused on sustainability, and it covers environmental standards, labor rights, and also certain aspects of renewable energy generation. So the implementation of FTA is governed by a set of committees. They meet on regular basis and whenever there is a need. We have a trade committee and then several specialized committees and groups that meet to discuss any pending implementation issues. Those bodies are basically attended by officials from the European Commission and on the Singaporean side by the Ministry of Trade and Industry, with other ministries helping. As I mentioned before, the implementation of the FTA is very smooth, so we are not actually discussing many market access issues because Singapore is very, very open, so we don't have many new cases to deal with when it comes to operating here. And actually, I will now move to what we are doing now. So the new agreements that we negotiated and are going to negotiate. So during the first EU-Singapore Trade Committee under the Free Trade Agreement, which took place in 2021 in December, it was decided that we should negotiate new agreement on digital trade, as the FTA was rather old and the provisions included there did not correspond to the present requirements or expectations of business. And this is what we have done. So we started by negotiating digital partnership, which basically covers areas of cooperation and areas where there can be development of common standards, for example, like invoicing, or basically discussing how to improve digital skills or how to support digital transformation of SMEs. And this agreement was actually in a non-binding format, so it was more about cooperation. It did not introduce any binding rules. And now, as of July, we are in the process of negotiating digital trade agreement, which will cover also binding provisions on data flows, business trusts, data governance, and trade facilitation. And we will have the first round of negotiations of this agreement in October. On the DG Trade website, so part of the European Commission that deals with international trade, and on our EU Delegation website, we have several basically publications that you might find useful. We just issued a a new edition of EU Singapore Trade and Investment booklet from 2023. And we have also a guide to the EU Singapore FTA, which explains chapter by chapter how to find information and what are the exact provisions. And in general, if you are interested in finding out the rules applicable for export and import, we have a database which is quite detailed. It's called Access to Markets. You might know it from the context of other trading partners, which is actually updated and provides very useful, up-to-date information on requirements for export for certain goods. So I will stop here. So this is again a promotion of our Access to Markets database. But if you have any further questions, I will be happy to reply to them later. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the overview, for the useful links and the information. And I'm sure that there will be more questions, as well as participants will prepare to have questions while we are in Singapore. Again, I remind that all the information that have been shared in the presentations today will be uploaded on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, as well as colleagues are sharing at the moment in the chat box some of the links that have been mentioned now in the presentations. We will be completing this picture of market access information with a presentation of the EU Chamber of Commerce in Singapore. So I'm pleased to welcome on the floor now Cornelis.
Thank you, Theodora, and also thank you, Christoph, for inviting me for this session. If you don't mind, Theodora, I'm going to share my own screen.
Yes, 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 you can share your screen, yes.
Do you see it in presentation mode?
Not yet, so if you can go on full screen.
Is this screen?
Yes,
for you?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. Thank you.
So good morning, Brussels. My name is Nele Cornelis. I'm the Executive Director of the European Chamber here in Singapore. I'm in Singapore for 15 years and driving and heading the Chamber for 8 years. So I'm happy to explain you a bit, if you plan to join us here in Singapore, what you can expect if you are engaged in the activities of the Chamber. So a little bit on the DNA, what are we standing for? Just like maybe whatever everybody expects from a Chamber, we are a platform. We are here to support the bilateral exchange between Europe and Singapore, of course. But more important is also to say that we are an independent organization. It's a non-profit organization. And we are funded by companies, by our corporate members. But also we work with 14 European national business groups. So it's what we are a hybrid association. We are a chamber of chambers for the German chamber, the French chamber, the Dutch chamber, and so on. So we have 14 of these European national groups. And on the other hand, we have our own corporate members, mainly European businesses. We focus very much on MNCs, though through the national business groups, we have also access to more than 3,000 other companies, SMEs, and startups. So the stakeholders we focus on besides our own members is the stakeholders from Singapore, because what we see ourselves as a platform creating a continuous dialogue with stakeholders like Singapore. And when I talk about Singapore, I mean governmental entities, I mean Singaporean business communities. We had today our friends from Enterprise Singapore for SBF. These are very much important stakeholders for our organization. Of course, also the EU governmental entities with the EU delegation here in Singapore, and other associations, other trade associations, the Food Association, the Tech Association. So we also work with local national trade associations. Within our organization, you can imagine that we have quite a good number of industries within our members, and all these verticals we organize in what we call committees, industry-driven committees and topic-driven committees. And you see them there on my slide on the right. So it goes from mobility to digital economy, financial services, but also healthcare. Human resources is another committee. We focus also on intellectual property rights. Tax is another committee. Supply chain, sustainability, wine and spirits, aerospace, and circular economy. I will dive later in two particular ones, because I think if I looked to the participants today, there might be two that I want to highlight a little bit more. But what are actually then the activities that we do at the Chamber? A lot of meetings, a lot of events, a lot of sharing sessions, breakfast talks, dialogues that we have. Like I say, with the stakeholders from Singapore, with our partners from the EU, but mostly also with our own members. So what you can expect when you participate and engage with the Chamber is being connected with C-levels of all these stakeholders, and in the first place, the business community for Singapore and the EU here, and not only in Singapore, but also in the region ASEAN. We do also some publications. If you go on our website, you can download quite a good number of white books. So on a yearly basis, we publish and disseminate amongst our network sustainability white book or the future of healthcare white book. This year, and very much so, I expect my physical copy to come to the office. We focused on a digital economy white book for this year. We work also with the media, so we try to create a platform for our members, European businesses, to be visible in the media, to showcase their excellence in different fields, not to mention innovation, digitalization, and sustainability. So when I go back to who are the stakeholders on the Singapore side, and mostly on the government side, I just wanted to share a nutshell of the partners we work on a regular basis. Ministry of Trade, for instance, but also the Agri-Food and Veterinary Authority, EDP is involved as well in what we do, and so on and so forth. So there is quite a good number of institutions that we build a very strong relationship with and continue the dialogue. I promised you I would dive into a couple of the committees because they are very, very important for us. And also when I look at the participants today, I think it's very relevant to explain you the focus of the Chamber on sustainability. We not only have a sustainability committee where we cover topics like energy efficiency or carbon footprint or even green taxonomy, but we run even what we call sustainability programs. And when I talk about a program, it means that in the beginning of the year, we define 5 specific areas in the field of sustainability. I just showcased today where we were focusing on for this year. But every year we have kind of a rotation of different topics in the field of sustainability. And with these focus pillars, we organize breakfast talks, lunches, C-suite lunches, closed door meetings, but also our publications are focused on these topics. And at the end of the year, mostly October, November, we have the cherry on the cake for the program, and that is our Sustainability Awards Gala Dinner. In that case, we embrace the full scope of the network. We invite the stakeholders on the Singapore side. We invite our members. We invite also local companies because we definitely want to embrace also their efforts in sustainability and celebrate their excellence. So I understood that the matchmaking event will take place on the 30th of October. So if some of you are still around on the 2nd of November, we still have tickets. If you go on our website, we would be very much welcoming you if you plan to join us on the 2nd of November for this gala dinner. Another topic, and Justina just mentioned it, the importance of the digital economy conversation that we have with Singapore and the EU, because we're looking into very soon an agreement. We already have signed an agreement between the EU and Singapore. And that's also then for the Chamber another focus area. So this year, and together with our Digital Economy Committee, we have been covering this topic again with our events, as I already mentioned a couple of times, talks, dialogues, fireside chats, and so on. Digital for sustainability is a high topic as well for not only the members within the EU, but also for Singapore. It's a very important field of digitalization. Digital for trade as well, emerging technologies, and upskilling and reskilling, which is also a topic we cover very much so in the Human Development Committee. This year, we, just like we ran a sustainability committee, we ran also just like we ran the sustainability committee, we ran also the digital economy program, and you see there the focus pillars we had this year. And like I mentioned, very soon we will launch the digital economy white book on the 17th of October with a dialogue with Minister Gan, who is the Minister for Trade and Industry. Another totally different committee, but I just wanted to highlight because I know we have some participants in the food and beverage sector as well today with us. So I wanted to highlight what the Wine and Spirits Committee is doing. They focus very much on creating a good platform for Singapore's markets, and sometimes alcohol might be a bit sensitive topic. So our members, European brands of spirits and wines, are focusing on campaigns that the Chamber is supporting, responsible drinking, but also drink-wise campaigns. Another topic we focus on is recycling. Sustainability is actually a topic that we cover in all our committees, but also on traceability and decoding. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Dora, can I give the floor back to you?
Thank you very much, and we would very much looking forward to meeting you in person while we're in Singapore. I'm pretty sure that we can continue the dialogue, and there would be some more questions. I believe we have so much information shared today with the participants, but I'm pretty sure that during the days we are in Singapore, we can continue the communication and exchanging further how the delegates could connect with the Chamber. Okay, so we would now continue with the next session, which is the presentation of Southeast Asia IP SME Help Desk. We have today with us here Nora Bihari. Some of you who've been part of the delegation from last year have seen her. So Nora, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So I will share my screen.
Yes.
You can see, right?
Yes, just if you can, yes, it's in full mode.
It's full screen.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Theodora, and good morning or good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Nora. I am the project manager of the Southeast Asia IPSME Help Desk project. The Help Desk is an initiative of the European Commission to support small and medium-sized enterprises to protect and enforce their intellectual property rights in relation to Southeast Asia. All services that we offer are free of charge. Here you can see a snapshot of the services. So what can be relevant for you? We have an inquiry helpline. Through this helpline, we provide one-to-one advice to either SMEs or, of course, intermediaries, for example, to clusters or chambers, to help them to figure out an IP strategy. We have a website with available, we update there all our activities that we organize. So we organize training events throughout the year in Europe, in Southeast Asia or online. So this is relevant for clusters that if you have a delegation, for example, to a Southeast Asian country, and you want to prepare them to make sure that they have some basic knowledge about intellectual property rights before going on a mission, welcome to contact the help desk, and we can arrange a speaker for you in any of the European countries, basically. And we also offer some publications. So here I wanted to share with you. We have an IP fact sheet for all Southeast Asian countries. So of course we have one for Singapore. We also have various IP guides, for example, how to protect your trademark internationally through the Madrid system. We also have some practical guides to prepare companies before attending trade fairs, what you need to know. And also we offer some industry-specific guides. Here I included a food and beverage guide, but we also have guides on artificial intelligence, technology transfer, so really many topics are covered. Here I wanted to explain a little bit more details, how can we support you? So we can basically differentiate the services for companies, which is really to help the businesses to take care of their IP strategy. So what kind of questions a company, an SME, a startup can ask from the project? How to build an IP strategy before entering or planning to enter to a new market? Or how the IP registration system works in Southeast Asia? How can I register my trademark? Or what are my options if I have an ongoing patent application in Europe through the PCT? Is it something that you can also, I can extend to Southeast Asia? And also what are the options in case of infringement? And last but not least, we also work with a network of external experts in Southeast Asia. So in case you need to proceed with a legal action, then we also have a database where we offer some reliable contacts that you may use based on your needs. Sorry for my voice. And the second layer of cooperation is with multipliers. Here under multipliers, we mean clusters, European Commission initiatives, trade agencies, chambers of commerce, professional associations. We work very much with multipliers because they represent SME members, right? So we always try to explore the possibility of organizing training events with multipliers. For example, well, today is really just a brief introduction from our side on the services that we offer, but we can also do a more technical training where we explain in 15-20 minutes what are the risks that companies face when they come to Southeast Asia in terms of IP, how to make sure that they are aware of their options, or what is the importance of timing. So these kind of trainings can always focus on the industry and on the country. And of course, we can also keep it generic if there is no clear, if the companies come from different industries, then we also can focus on a more generic approach. Even for multipliers, we can include after the training session one-to-one chat with the expert. So if any of the attendees have specific questions, they can have a confidential consultation with the expert. And for example, we often go to trade fairs and we provide on-the-spot advice during the trade fair for the participants. So we approach them and we try to explore what is their plan in this country, how they want to expand their business, and what kind of IP assets they have, and how we can help them to make sure that they can land safely on this market. So here is just to highlight again. So we have this special email address where companies are welcome, or clusters, to contact us for any IP questions regarding Southeast Asia. And we also have a newsletter that we publish once a month. So we keep updates about the recent changes in the region, upcoming activities, and new publications. So this is something that you are always welcome to sign up to follow our news. I have not mentioned, but the Southeast Asia Help Desk is part of the International IPSME Help Desk. So that means that we cover other regions. We call them our sister projects. So of course, we focus on the 10 ASEAN countries, but our sister projects cover China, Latin America, India, Africa, and Europe. So in case you have any questions through our website, you can access the regional help desks or even contact us, and we will connect you with the right region. So thank you very much for your attention, and we look forward to supporting you further during the mission in the framework of a training session. Thank you, Theodora. Back to you.
Thank you, Nora, and thank you for the overall collaboration with you, because we have been cooperating now for all other missions that we have. I mean, just only during this week, we had a presentation with regards to the forthcoming matchmaking event in South Africa. So we really thank you for the overall information and support. And as well, it is something that I can share with the participants that are covering and coming from the agri-food sector, that the colleagues will are preparing a special session within the frame of the Agri-Food Tech Expo. So also thanks to colleagues from the Agri-Food Tech Expo exploring and confirming this opportunity. More details will come in the final agenda when we send about the participation. So now we will continue with the presentations for the two events that the EU Singapore Matchmaking Event, in the frame of those events, it's taking place, the EU Singapore Matchmaking Event. And we will start with the presentation of Switch. So I welcome on the floor Mr. Seng to start the overview of the Switch Expo.
Thanks, Theodora. Really, thanks for the introduction, and a really big word of thanks to ECCP for putting this wonderful webinar together as well. Let me just give me a few seconds to just share the screen. Thanks everyone for being at this wonderful webinar today. I'm Seng from Enterprise Singapore, part of the team that organizes the Singapore Week of Innovation and Technology, which is happening actually 31st October to 2nd November at the SANS Expo and Convention Center in Singapore. Now, Switch, if you're not aware by now, all right, it's actually an innovation and tech event that's actually organized by Enterprise Singapore and very much supported by the National Research Foundation under Singapore's Prime Minister's Office. Now, what we do every year at the end of the year is have a flagship event, all right, which I think most of you are going to, all right, and we actually connect, startup founders, SME owners, investors, corporates, innovators, researchers, and even different trade and tech agents, government agencies from around the world to connect to find new business, all right, and collaboration opportunities, all right. So I think in a nutshell, I think Switch is a very broad innovation and tech event that seeks to actually bring together not only the Singapore, innovation and tech ecosystem, but also from the Southeast Asian region, all right, and from around the world as well. Now, last year, all right, we had quite a very good attendance at Switch. And I think it's also testament to the fact that, Switch itself is really one of the more important premier innovation events, all right, in the Singapore event calendar itself. I think our sister agency, the EDB of Singapore, right, has also mentioned Switch as really one of the key events to actually visit in terms of being immersed in the innovation and tech ecosystem in Singapore, all right, and finding opportunities there. Last year at Switch's flagship event, we had 9,000 plus unique attendees over the course of 4 days, all right, and I think a very large part of the attendees makeup is that there are tech startups, tech SMEs, as well as tech MNCs who are actually part of the attendees of the event itself. And so very much, I think more than half of all the attendees, right, are not only, right, very important business participants, all right, with the business audience, but they are also senior decision makers, C-suites, founders, business owners, all right, like some of you, all right, as well as, directors and senior decision makers from organizations and companies around the region and around the world as well. We had, quite a good, strong following of 30%, all right, of the attendees from coming outside of Singapore. And I think we're also looking at similar numbers this year. Now, this year, what we are hoping to achieve, right, are 15,000 unique attendees coming through our doors from 31st October to 2nd November. We are already looking at more than 350 exhibitors, all right, and the vast majority of them are actually either tech startups or tech companies, right, involved in different, industry sectors as well. We also have a conference component, all right, with more than 80 conference sessions across our 3 days this year, right, and we expect to welcome actually more than 300 global leaders and speakers on our different stages itself. Talking about stages, I think this year at the Switch event, we're looking at 15 content stages altogether with one mega exhibition. All right. We have various different components to the Switch conference session itself alongside the exhibition. You see on screen here, Switch Global, which is actually a market access session, which I think will be quite interesting to quite a lot of you in the audience today. Startup pitching competition, costing shot, all right, industry stages, all right, as well as concurrent networking and roundtable activities. Now, it's actually quite bewildering and can be quite confusing, you know, as a large scale event like Switch. So, I mean, what I am here today to do is actually to part the mist or the clouds and provide, you know, a way for you to navigate, you know, and extract the maximum value when you're at the event this year. So very quickly, let me just quickly distill, right, I think the key highlights and areas of Switch this year that we're presenting, you know, to all participants, including yourselves, right, if you're coming by. All right. And I think there are certain areas of value in which you might be able to extract from being at Switch today. So first thing, I think what we are presenting at Switch this year is definitely about, you know, Singapore, Asia, innovation ecosystem. So other than, you know, the normal exhibition and showcase itself, right, we're also having some interesting components at Switch this year where the innovation ecosystem comes together. First, we actually have, if you can see in the first you know, gray area on top, right, is this in the center is this Tech Innovation by IPI. Now, this is a very interesting platform that runs for 3 days during Switch itself this year, is where technology providers and technology owners, and some of them are actually even universities, right, as well as research institutions, they are sitting on a huge amount of IPs and also commercializable technologies or even commercialized tech. And they're there actually to also to look for actually companies or partners to collaborate with them. At the same time, I think this itself, right, tech innovation also attracts, all right, technology seekers who are actually looking at specific technologies to be implemented, you know, in their businesses or into their existing products itself. So that is something that I thought would be quite interesting for some of you. Now, alongside this innovation ecosystem content, if we move down towards the middle part of the slide, you'll see the startup focused content, right, where for tech SMEs and tech startups from around the world, we have this Switch Global stage, all right, at the main exhibition area, where actually we are actually providing market access sessions. So different trade and technology agencies from different markets around the world will actually go on stage, all right, and then talk about opportunities, right, within their home markets, right, for companies and startups around the world. So if you are interested in specific markets, you know, from the European region, you know, the Americas, right, or somewhere in Asia itself, attend those sessions that would make sense to you, and then reach out directly to those officers who are representing those markets or those government agencies, right, you know, and explore opportunities. Now, at the same time, all right, if you are in the market, right, to connect with top global startups, all right, just stay tuned across the 3 days for the Slingshot, you know, global startup competition, domain, and grand finals itself. Now, on more specific, you know, I think horizontals, right, like sustainability and artificial intelligence and digital, we also have various engagement sessions, like for example, circular economy conference, the green transition conference, AI conference, as well as other digital conferences. So those will be actually quite interesting if you're interested in those areas and interested to actually connect with the leaders who will be actually speaking on stage as well. Now, Switch is a very broad-based event. We don't focus on any specific one industry segment or one industry sector. We cover 5 broad ones, all right, which you see on screen. All right, so pretty much I think whatever industry sector you are based at or you are working on, I think you'll definitely be able to find a collaborator, a potential customer, or an investor, all right, who's interested in a particular domain itself. Now, before I also move on to end this presentation, I would like to also present to you what I call the hack guide to Switch. Basically, you know, life hacks, right? This is a Switch hack. So there are a few things that, you know, you can do quickly, right? If you only have maybe half a day or 1 day or a few hours, you know, at Switch itself. First, number one, before coming, know the program. Okay, check our website for weekly conference and event updates. All right. But the interesting hack is that, all right, if you're looking at exhibitors who are showcasing their technologies, they are all on level 5 of the event venue for all 3 days. All right. All conference sessions are on level 4. All right, there's a healthcare conference happening on the first day, 31st October. There's a sustainability conference happening on the second day, 1st November. All right, there's an AI conference on the first 2 days, a consumer conference on the second and third day. All right, and if you're interested in startups, start pitches are on level 5 in the exhibition area as well. Okay, so that's the first hack, know the program. Second hack, okay, know who goes where, right? Because there's certain activities at Switch that will attract a particular group of people that you might be interested to connect to. So for VCs and industry leaders, all right, a lot of them are judges at the Slingshot competition stage. all right, across the 3 days. All right. VCs and investors themselves will also be available to catch up with at the investor lounge on level 5. All right. Many of the industry leaders, okay, they will speak at the conference sessions throughout the different conference activities, right, on level 4. All right. Market access sessions, if you're interested in many markets around the world, they're on level 5 at the global stage. Okay, so these are the 2 hacks. Third hack, all right, there is also an offsite event that's happening at One North. So this is actually, I will call it a tech and innovation hub of Singapore. We have actually arranged buses where you can actually hop on the bus and go straight to One North, and after that hop on the same buses, same groups of buses, and come back to the event venue to switch itself. Right. So take a look at that place. Right. Go and engage with the investors, the startups, the companies who are there. Some of the companies who have their actually Asia Pacific offices in the region, like the logos that you see on screen, they will also open up their offices and their labs, for you all to visit as well. So check on the Switch website for updates. Last but not least, all right, navigate the exhibition floor, all right, efficiently and quickly. All right, there's certain places to come in. All right, catch top startups at the slingshot stage, market access at the global stage, and there's an investor lounge if you're interested in investors. There's also business matching services that are also provided. All right, but you need to let us know in advance. Daily networking sessions at the biz and bus area, and of course, level 4 for the conferences itself. Now, if you are really interested, okay, which I'm sure you are, all right, please just scan the QR code, all right, and sign up for your free trade pass and conference pass. And I think if there are any questions, just feel free to pass them along to Theodora, and I'm sure she'll be more than happy to link me up with yourselves to have further chat. So that's it for my sharing. Thank you so much, Theodora and everyone.
Thank you very much for this overview. It was very good to know what is happening on the exhibition floor during the days. Just want to confirm for the delegates that will be part of Switch event that during the next few days, together with the Switch team, we will confirm the program that would be part of our official program for the day. We will have the 31st as well as the 1st to visit as many as possible of the activities that has been presented. There will be a guided tour. There will be a visit to different stands, but also you've seen now during the presentation about the corporate labs, about the different visits and the areas. So we will already point in the program what it's good to be done, but also we will guide you through, as you've seen in the presentation, what else you can further explore and how to prepare yourself. But it is good to start looking at the Switch website. We will also send you a link to register because each delegate would need to have entry pass for the Switch event. So all this will come in the next week as information, so you can start prepare for visiting the event. And we will continue now with the presentation for from the Agri-Food Tech Expo. So we will see again such information. I would like to welcome on the floor Wendy Chang Petit. She's the event director of the Agri-Food Tech Expo.
Thank you so much, Dora, for giving us the chance to present this Agri-Food Tech Expo Asia. Let me try to put up the screen. Are you seeing my screen at the moment?
Just if you can go on the full screen mode. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. It really warmed my cockles to be, in this session because previously I was working for the French Chamber of Commerce for 6 years in agrotech. So I'm really happy to be, sharing some insights of Agri-Food Tech Expo Asia, in this session, to the European, friends who are coming to Singapore. And I see that, this is really a very, useful and interesting, delegation for the European companies to come to Singapore. And it's a very well-rounded program, with Switch and furthermore with Agri-Food Tech Expo Asia, which is focused more on the Agri-Food Tech side. So my name is Wendy. I'm the event director for Agri-Food Tech Expo Asia. This show will be held on the 31st of October to 2nd of November in SANS Expo and Convention Center. So it's in the same place as Switch. So we are on the ground floor where the taxi stands arrive. Our show is rested on 3 main pillars. So on innovation, sustainability, and safety. So with all these 3 pillars, we hope to, guide the future food systems into the future of, food sustainability and safety. So this show is one of the participating events of the Singapore International Agri-Food Week. And we co-run it with TLG, who is our international partner and is an event of Constella. I'll give you a very brief overall highlights of, what are you expecting from this show. So as I mentioned, so this is the region's only and leading agri-food and agri-tech focused exhibition platform. We intend to showcase the latest innovative products and services in these sectors. We are running a lot of partnership programs with the industry partners in this community. Our main aim is actually to drive collaboration and partnership in the AgTech and the food tech sector. So we work with our community partner, Good Food Institute APAC. We also work with our ecosystem partner, Impact Circle, who is very strong in the startups, and they're helping to, to bring us startups from Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and South Korea. We also have an incubator partner working with Republic Polytechnic and Trendlines, and they themselves, they're occupying 20 startup in the Founders Hub area. We also have our sustainability partner, Alibaba Cloud and Circular Unite, where we intend to showcase the sustainability aspect of the trade show in these 3 days. And we do have a networking partner, FTW Ventures. So we are also inviting our network, to network with us on the first day of the show. So I can also share some details with Dora later. These are the countries and regions that are represented in the show. So we have countries representation from worldwide, from Europe strongly, Germany, France, Netherlands, Spain, UK. And then from the, ASEAN, Asia region, so we have like Singapore, China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Indonesia, and South Korea. So we have participation from as far as Canada. And also forgetting, Hungary and Bhutan. So altogether, we have 9 country pavilions. And we're proud to say that, we have mounted, Singapore, or rather the world's first cultivated meat pavilion in partnership with APAC, Society of Cellular Agriculture. So this is the first, and we're featuring, between 7 to 10 startups and companies in this cultivated meat ecosystem. So, we'd be very happy to share this, pavilion with you guys. And we have over 300 exhibiting brands participating, ranging from the likes of the IHLs to, countries, and then plus, like a commercial entities, as you can see from here. So what you can expect is that, there'll be a very strong, networking and collaboration element. So we have put on, some of the, very interesting, business matching, and also, Sandbox and the Founders Hub program, which I will show later on in our next slides. So we hope to attract between, 6,000 to 8,000 and more, visitors to come from Singapore and from abroad to join us, and from, targeting various, segments, which includes vertical farming, novel food, alternative proteins, aquaculture, novel food technology, sustainability practices, safety, packaging, food waste management, etc. So these are very interesting, food segments, ag tech and the food tech segments that, we are covering in this exhibition. I'll also cover on the, some of the key highlights. So we have 2 speaking opportunities, Sandbox and Founders Hub. The difference between these 2 speaking opportunities is that Sandbox is merely geared towards companies rather than startups, while the Founders Hub is merely geared towards startups. So all these are happening during the 3 days program. And we intend to cover, several topics that are in these food systems. So we talk about the alternative proteins. We have a panel discussion on the cultivated, food regulatory trends. We talk about, some country highlights, for example, Indonesia, Japan, etc. And for the Founders Hub, is really a curated platform to showcase startups in the agtech and the food tech sector. So there are over like 60 groundbreaking food tech startups that were featuring locally and that could impact, the whole food ecosystem. And if, for example, if your company who is in the ag tech and the food tech sector, if you intend to join us as an exhibitor, we still have some slots left in the startup arena. And for the international hosted buyers, so they can actually, or even like international delegates, you can also, come and join us in, 2 offsite tours, which we are organizing. One is to Protein Innovation Center. It's a collaboration between Buehler and Givaudan. So it's for companies who want to develop novel plant-based food products. And another one is we are collaborating with IHL NTU, the SAIL program, which is the Singapore Agri-Food Innovation Lab. So it's, we have identified, 4 areas of focus: sustainability, agri-food, productivity and quality, and digitalization of business operation and product R&D. So we actually, showcase, some of the research, department, and inclusive of, food printing as well. So I think that can be very interesting aspect, that is from the IHL. How do they actually, spearhead, from an idea, to a research, and then, to launch it, commercially, in the commercial aspect. So for visitors who are joining us, so we'll be giving you access to our digital app, which is called Agri-Food Tech Expo Asia 2023. So from this, it's just a brief guide. How do you actually register? And then plus you can use this app to actually organize B2B meetings. And we have created a business matching lounge, and we also have a networking kind of like a area for you to do your business matching and business meetings as well. Okay, last and not least, just a very brief introduction. So we are Constella. We are Singapore's largest MICE industry player, and we aim to create innovative event and venue experiences, and also to activate impactful networks to bring businesses to a higher level. Yeah, so thank you so much for listening, and we hope to see you there. And just a short note to brief upon what Dora has said. Yes, we are working with Nora from Southeast Asia IP SME handbook, and we will be featuring a talk from Nora about implementing, IP, solutions in the Southeast Asia. So we hope to see you there in our show and also in this speaking session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Wendy. And for those, because you finished your presentation with a brief overview of the Constellar as an organization, for those that have been part of the delegation last year, I would like to say that we already had a great successful collaboration, as you've been also organizing the ITAP event, and last year for the EU Singapore Matchmaking Event, it was in the frame of ITAP. So thank you very much for continuation of our collaboration. So with this, we have completed the presentations from the different partners, and we are going towards the Q&A and closing session. Here I will brief you what is coming next in terms of preparing for the matchmaking event. So very soon we will have a technical webinar. For many of you, you're familiar. The technical webinar, it's a presentation of the Bit2Match, where you will establish and set up your profiles, so to start requesting meetings with the Singaporean partners. During the technical webinar will be created in a format of a meeting and would be not only for the EU delegates, but also the Singaporean counterparts will be and organizations will be invited. So it is the first chance for you to see who is going to be on the room at the matchmaking day and to start exchanging. I would like to congratulate today all the participants, because we see in the chat you're already engaging, which is very good, because it was said at the beginning that today's webinar, it's the opening the door for the journey to Singapore starts with the webinar today. So we will provide you with the information and the registration link with for the technical webinar. For the time being, please block the time as you see it on the screen from 10 to 11 CET time. We just need to confirm it with the Singaporean organizations, but this has been already exchanged via emails. Registration link will follow shortly. Also, some practical information. The main hotel, we have informed you via email, is the Village Hotel Bugis. We will use the morning on the 30th of October. You will use the hotel as a meeting point for all EU delegates. Information will follow, but this will be another chance before the start of the matchmaking day, already everyone to briefly present themselves and to put a face behind the name of the organization, as though the key moment is to have meetings with the Singaporean organizations. We already seen from the previous events that it's very important also to have an exchange and to give an opportunity EU delegates also to have a chance to know more and to have this greeting session. So we will start the event with this greeting session, and jointly we will make our way to the premises of the Singapore Business Federation, where the day of the matchmaking day will take place. Information, of course, for all of this will be included in the final agenda, as well as the participants booklet. You see here the matchmaking venue, as I just said. Also, because we have visits on the 31st and the 1st of November, we will have two groups based on the sectorial representation. So we will be visiting Switch as well as the Agri-Food Tech Expo. There will be the information that you will receive will be structured. So those that are representing, for example, the agri-food sector will have their agenda different from those that will be part of the Switch. Of course, if you have some questions, please always email us. Our team is working and trying to respond to your emails and requests on a daily basis. There will be a lot of information with regards to the site visits, and as already confirmed with the partners from the two events, you heard that during the next days we will try to put in the agenda in the best possible way, so you already start preparing your visit on the show, but also try to guide you how to make the best out of the visit. If you have the afternoon, for example, on the 31st at the show, how to book more meetings. You heard that both events, they are having their apps. There will be opportunities for more matchmakings, meetings to be booked through the two systems of the event. So please take your time, take good care to prepare, to see who is on the exhibition floor, to schedule meetings, make the best out of the networking sessions and areas of the two events, because this will make much more from of your travel. I'll quickly check if there is any questions that we can respond directly while we have a couple of more minutes. Once again, I will repeat that we will send you the link for the where you can find all the materials from today. As Christoph said earlier, we will also share with you the organizations that are already part from the EU side in the group. we will send you information about the technical webinar, but please book the time that you have seen on the screen. It's the 17th of October from 10 to 11 CT. Would be mostly about the B2 match and how to make your profiles, but of course also to see who is already part of the delegation from the Singaporean part. For those that haven't booked their hotel, we just confirmed this morning with our colleagues from the Village Hotel Bugis that you can still do that by the end of this week. So please proceed. It is not necessary to be in that hotel, but from logistical aspects would be easier for everyone, and the group would be at the same place. So with this, I think we have covered most of the things for which were aimed for today. If there are some questions, please let us know. The hotel, I see a question coming now in the box. The hotel, we have sent you an email. There is a special rates. We have sent you an email, and please use the email that we have sent with regards to the hotel. If you haven't, this is a response to Dominica. We will make sure to resend you once again the email where all the information about the process of booking the accommodation has been shared. So please do it, and this could be done by the end of this week. So thank you very much once again to all who have participated today. Thanks to my colleagues, and thanks to all partners from Singapore who are working very hard to make this event happening. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day.